Okay guys, I'm going to try and have a bit of fun making a selfie / video to explain to you a little bit about the dancing line concept. Probably the best way to think about dancing line is actually to think exactly of dancing. And when you think about dancing, involves music and it involves responding to the music. So, and your body moves, all parts of your body moves. Your hips sway, your shoulders sway. You know, you're making a walking motion. Some of it is fast, some of it's tight, some of it's slow, and some of it's very sensual. We want to try to convey some of that through drawing and some of it through the concept of scribbling. So really what we want to do is we want to be thinking of scribbling as being something that you would drag out from being a kid, and then we want it to then extend on to something which is a little bit more sophisticated. So, you know, it's like the motions of a little kid learning to walk as opposed to something more refined. So let's see if we can go through a few of the key concepts and see if we can get you understanding what I need you to do. Okay, before we get started with the dancing line, just a point. Artists just generally use a knife to sharpen their pencils. We kind of expose the lead a little bit more so we can get a little bit more out of that lead than just having it sharpened with a pencil sharpener. It's a personal preference, that's up to you. But let's get into this and let's start talking about dancing the line. Okay, there's a couple of things, key things that I want to talk about. The first one is scribble and the idea of what is scribble. So when we think of scribble, we just think of random kind of scribbling. But if we do it in a meaningful way, we can actually draw information out of that scribble and we can develop it into things. So even though it's a scribble, it can actually start to develop into something. This is starting to turn into a face. So scribble is a useful thing for getting a sense, say, for proportion. Okay, so proportion is a really a good thing to get when you're scribbling. So for example, if I was drawing a building, I would be drawing the shape of the building like this. I just am scribbling that drawing. I don't really need to get a lot of detail in it, but I can get a sense really quickly of whether that building has got a sense of proportion. If there's someone on the steps, what do they look like coming down the steps if they had a basket on their head or whatever. So the value of scribbling is, before you invest too much in the drawing, is that you can get your proportion sorted out. So even when it comes to drawing a human form, like I tend to really just rough out the drawing. You can see that I'm even running off the page of that drawing. So I need to get a sense of a head, I need to get a sense of the height of the shoulder width, the hip width, and the position of the feet, maybe, for example. So I just scribble all that in before I even start with anything. I've got the proportion and it looks right. That one looks wrong. Try another one over here. You know, it looks approximately right. So that's, again, you know, that's kind of scribbling for proportions. So building is just something really schematic like that. Human, it's just like that. So if you build your composition of buildings and people and you scribble them, then you don't get invested in it beyond the point where you are overworking something that is not going to be able to be fixed. So now we come to the rules of the threes about scribbling. The first one is the weight. Okay, so this is the weight. So what I want you to be able to do is see that you should be able to, by using a light weight, have one weight of line. By using a heavier weight, you'll get a second weight of line. You'll see that's darker, and then the third one is quite dark. So at any given point in time, you should always be having in your mind that you are working with 3 weights of line. So light, darker, and then dark. So always, as you're scribbling, you've got darker lines, you've got lighter lines, you've got lines that you may hardly even see. Okay, so weight is the first one. The second one is speed. Okay, so again, 1, 2, 3. Some lines when you're sketching things in are really fast. Then as you're coming in to get your finer details and directions, you start to slow down a little bit. And then when it gets right down to the fine details, then you're working really quite slow and deliberately. The idea, as far as I'm concerned, is that you would use lightweight to scribble your proportions in, a little bit darker weight as you're getting things defined, and then finally you're using speed. You're slowing right down to get the details. Okay. So speed is really important. And then the third one is direction. Okay, so you can change the direction, and like I think of this as, again, as 1, 2, 3. You know, that's a single direction, and you change the direction, it's 90 degrees, it's very simple. Another direction is kind of like cross-hatching. You can get different things happening when you move the line around. And the other one, of course, is this kind of scribbling thing where the line is going in all directions. So we've kind of got one direction, 2 directions, and then multiple sort of straight directions, and then the wobbly, scribbly direction, which is back to the scribble again. So then the trick really is trying to combine the 3 of these all into one motion. So you've got weight of line, and then you've got direction and speed. So I'm changing the weight of the line, direction and speed. It's all happening in the one line. And so what we're starting to get then is the dancing line. Okay, so when we're looking at Rembrandt's drawings, we see how he dances his lines. Everything has got a little bit of a wiggle, and probably the easiest thing to think of is with your handwriting. Probably your handwriting reflects dancing line, but when you do your signature, that's more of a dance. Okay, so the dancing line is combining speed, weight and direction into the one controlled line. Okay, so you can actually be at any given point in time scribbling out your drawing, but slowing down, getting direction changes, and actually really trying to get a sense that the lines have a meaning outside of just being outlines describing, say, the outline shape of a building. Okay, because all of that can come in later. If you wanted to, you could outline this, you could use a ruler and you could get everything really accurate. But at this point in time, we're just really interested in this dancing line. Okay, and scribble. And then finally, of course, proportion. 1, 2, 3.